Well, howdy do, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Masked Ranger, and we are back with some more Animals of Farthing Wood, The Journey of a Lifetime, with Chapter 13, The Endless Urban Maze. In the last part, Chapter 12, Long Ride Home, our favorite group of animals, Plucky, Dash, Scarlet, Perry the Peregrine, Bolt, Woody, and Jester, were able to get on the train and are currently, hopefully, on the way back to White Deer Park. And on board the train, Plucky and Scarlet had a talk with each other where we finally got to learn a little bit more about Scarlet's backstory and what the deal is with her and the Grey Foxes. Most prominent being that the reason she is being hunted down by the Grey Foxes is because of the fact that she refused to marry one of them named Tyron, who, as we discovered last chapter and in the first one, is a complete bastard, please excuse my language, and tried to force him on top of her. So Scarlet was allowed by Caesar to leave, with a warning that she would be killed the next time they saw her, which is why Scarlet had been running away and all that. Plucky, in a very sweet moment, confessed his love for Scarlet, and the two of them decided that things can work out between them, that they can be mates. So, they're finally a couple, and it looks like they're on their way home. But given this chapter is named The Endless Urban Maze, and the number 13 is usually a number associated with bad luck, I don't think things will be that simple. But we'll just have to wait and see, so without further ado, let's read. It was a silent day. The sun was low because of the season, but it still lit the landscape as it did any other day, made brighter by the thin layer of snow on the ground. Though it was in patches, and the bare ground broke through in these parts. Each individual blade of grass glistened in the light as the sun attempted to rise higher in the sky. A cool winter wind blew, rocking bare trees ever so slightly, ruffling the empty branches. Yes, a blissful, silent midwinter's day. Choo-choo! Chugga 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 chugga. Choo choo! Chugga 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 chugga. Those were poor attempts at a train whistlings that I did for the first and last time, but I hope you liked that. Which was abruptly broken when the roar of a diesel engine train cut across the landscape, rustling the blades of grass along the track as it pushed the air out of its way. I don't know if that is like any sound that a diesel engine makes, but I think it just goes like, not the choo-choo, chugga 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 choo-choo. Inside the carriages, it was much quieter. The band of valiant traveling animals was still sleeping soundly. Plucky and Scarlet snuggled together, having confessed their love for each other and become mates the previous night. Dash and Bolt also cuddled in their sleep on the warm wooden floor. Woody and Jester were a lot less gracious in their sleep, and were both sprawled on the top of the pile of wood crates and cardboard boxes, while Perry had removed from his perch and settled lying down on top of another pile. The group were then unexpectedly awakened by the booming moan of the train's horn, and the beginning of the unbearable screech of the wheels on the polished iron rails as the train started to brake. "Well, that's one way to wake up," Scarlet mumbled sarcastically to Plucky with her eyes still closed. Even so," Plucky released a long yawn. "That's the best sleep I've had in ages." "That's good to hear," Scarlet smiled. Plucky then stood up and extended his front legs and stretched, yawning again. Scarlet just stayed lying down in a slumber, and Plucky looked at her with a smile. "You getting up?" Plucky asked warmly. 5 more minutes," she replied softly, still not moving. Plucky just continued to smile. He was so happy after last night. Now he and Scarlet were mates. He thought there was now nothing in the world that could change that. He wore a huge smile of pure happiness on his face as he walked along the carriage to check on the others to get them awake. As he did so, he peered out the open side door. That sudden mood of absolute happiness disappeared, as well did his smile, when what he saw was not what he was expecting. Yeah, the thing about chapters with the number 13 on them, I think it's just for this one and for the previous story, like empathy, yeah. Things do not go well in chapter 13 of any of the stories that I've read. The view that greeted him was not of the luscious green, or white, as it would be covered in snow, countryside. What stood before him was an image of tall, dull, and grey stacks scraping the sky. Skyscrapers! Some were less dull than the others, and instead shone and reflected the sunlight. But nevertheless, they all stood taller than any tree. The air he breathed felt stale and unclean. The train just stopped in the big city. And that means they overslept. The thing that us humans share with the animal kingdom is that we can all oversleep just as much as any other living thing can. Guys, get up! Get up now! Plucky commanded, having raised his voice. The others yawned and arose slowly, still drowsy from their night's sleep, and also began to wander over to the fox. Scarlet, however, knew something was wrong. She could easily tell the change in Plucky's voice and mood, and immediately got up and rushed to his side despite her drowsiness. What? What's wrong? She stuttered. Yeah, why wake us up? I was having a nice dream, Jester called over to them. And I was so comfy. Dash yawned as she snuggled up to both again. We overslept. That's what's wrong, Plucky said, gesturing them to look out the train door. The group adhered to his gesture and looked out the train. It was still moving, but slowly. They were in a mid-city rail yard. Many other carriages littered the other tracks, and beyond the far-off boundary fence, the rest of the city could be seen. There was little to no green in view, apart from a few overgrown shrubs and patches of sickly brown grass around the rail yard. It was also very noisy. As well as the sound of the train engine and the wheels along the tracks, there was a faint hum of much traffic, obviously coming from the many roads of the city, as well as car beeps and horns, and alarms. How could this have happened? Perry asked bewilderedly, although he and everyone else already knew the answer. We should have had someone on watch. Ugh! I'm such an idiot! Plucky exclaimed, admitting his failure with frustration. With a pained, solemn look, he dropped his head and folded his ears, looking down in guilt. Oh, come on, Pluck, you couldn't have known. This isn't your fault. Scarlet moved over to comfort him, nuzzling him gently. It's not your fault, she said calmly. All of us were tired, you especially. It did make him smile, but it was half-hearted. What do we do now, then? Perry inquired. First of all, we need to get off this train. Plucky perked up, taking charge again. And into the city? Are you mad? Jester argued. Where else are we going to go? Scarlet defended her mate. Not that the others knew it yet. But there are no trees in there, Woody said, full of worry. Or grass, Dash also worried. Not to mention it'll be full of humans, Bolt added on. Look, it's barely midday and we're in the city. We've gone too far south. He paused, looking to find the position of the sun. The sun is behind us, so that means White Deer Park is on the other side of the city, Plucky explained calmly. Alright, so they won't have too far to go then. That'll be good. But how are we supposed to get there? Jester asked cynically. Go through the city, Plucky continued. We'll never get through without being seen, Bolt said anxiously. The humans would be too busy in their own lives to bother with us, Scarlet reassured them all. And we can sneak about at night. They definitely won't notice us then, Plucky suggested, but wasn't prepared to have to convince the others anymore. He finished speaking with authority, as long as everyone is okay with that. None of the others voiced any protest. There was no point to it. Plucky was right. They had to go through the city now, no matter the risk. They were all no stranger to danger. They had encountered much of it on their journey already. But this was different. This was danger not from nature, but from man and his machines, something which made each of them nervous. Plucky in particular was already beginning to stress over it. The train suddenly emitted a loud, intolerable screech and came to a halt, shuddering the group from their disturbed thoughts. The next few minutes would alter the group's emotions more than once over. Satisfied that the train was stationary, Plucky jumped from the carriage onto the adjacent track and signaled the others to follow. Before any of them moved, though, another train horn could be heard near, drawing the animals' attention to it. It was on the track Plucky was on, traveling at great speed. I forgot how dangerous trains could be. And I played Grand Theft Auto 5 last night and ended up getting beamed by a train during my playthrough in the free roam. Plucky! Look out! Several of the group shouted together as the others were in a state of shock. Without any thought for her own safety, Scarlet jumped from the carriage and pushed Plucky out of the way of the approaching behemoth, and just in time jumped out the way herself. Oh, Scarlet, you are a boss! The train boomed past them, and nothing could be seen of Plucky or Scarlet. No! Dash yelled with fear, as she and the others looked distressfully for any sign of the two foxes. The train soon passed by, and silence fell. Once it had disappeared down the line, the rest of the group were relieved to see Plucky and Scarlet unscathed on the other side of the track. Both themselves were panting with relief, too. The rest of the group disembarked the inactive train they were still on and rushed to them, carefully looking around for any other deadly unstoppable locomotive. They were speechless with worry, more so than ever now, and terrified of whatever perils they would have to face next. Thanks, Plucky panted, but was immediately cut off when Scarlet hit him on the head hard with her front right paw. Ow! Dumb country fox! She scowled. You have to always look! You could have been killed! All right, Plucky conceded. I'm sorry. He was then interrupted again when Scarlet came up and nuzzled him. We've only been mates for the last few hours, and you're already trying to kill yourself, she whimpered, almost losing tears. I'm sorry, Plucky said lovingly. I'll be more careful. I promise. Wait, are you guys mates now? When did that happen? Dash asked them, both confused and overcome by her previous speechlessness. Well, the cat's out of the bag now, isn't it? Last night when you lot were asleep, we just, Plucky explained and looked back at Scarlet warmly with affection. Decided. This news, very unexpectedly, changed everyone's mood. Plucky and Scarlet's union lifted all of their hearts from the pit of despair they had previously been in. For a moment they forgot where they all were, and all the dangers that surrounded them. I'm so happy for you two! Dash almost shouted joyfully. As are the rest of us, I'm sure, Perry said with a big grin, and all of them chuckled. Smiles and laughs were shared between them for a while. That was until another train zoomed on past them. It put an end to their small celebration as they then remembered where they were. "Come on, let's keep moving," Plucky said calmly. "And try to find somewhere a little safer too," Scarlet added. The group wandered across the rail yard, looking warily for any other speeding trains, but nothing stirred. They quickly reached the boundary fence, but after a quick inspection they couldn't find any way through it. Woody and Jester suggested climbing over, as they would. They were squirrels, after all. However, climbing it was impossible, as there was not only no way to get up there, but also the top of it was laced with barbed wire, something of which Bold warned the others about staying away from, obviously from a previous bad experience. They all decided they would have to dig under. Perry flew across the other side to check if the terrain the other side of the fence was movable so they could dig. It was just bare soil and some grains of gravel. The foxes and hares proceeded to shovel the soil away. In no time at all, there was a hole big enough for them to pass under, with a slight squeeze for the larger mammals. Gathered on the other side of the fence, the group found themselves in the back alley of some run-down old red-brick apartment buildings. Round the corner, though, they looked out upon a single carriageway city road. There were more parked cars than moving and few humans about. Sorry, I was just checking to see if I still had data on for this, because I don't have Wi-Fi in the great outdoors. Having expected more humans to be around, the group had renewed confidence. Perry flew out high to find a safe place the other side of the road, and returned in almost an instant, reporting an alley on the other side. The group boldly sneaked out the alley and crossed the road, hastily looking both ways, and soon reached the other alleyway. It was a relief to all of them, having expected much more danger in this city than they had encountered so far. However, this was only one hurdle of many, and secretly they all knew it. 2,000 kilometers is dangerous 1,000 miles to hang out with us. What's up, danger? I'm not a stranger. We're no strangers, yeah? Okay, I'm just trying to sing a little song that I've heard before. Lyrics all wrong. I don't care, I'll just set up my own. I'm the safe it on my phone. I had a slumber party with all my foes, and I'm always gonna answer when they call my phone. Like, what's up, danger? Like, what's up, danger? Yeah, don't be a stranger. Yeah, what's up, danger? What's up, danger? What's up, danger? For the next couple of hours, the group sneaked carefully and vigilantly through several other alleyways, crossing some of our empty roads. However, they were soon stopped by a busy dual carriageway on the fringe of the city center. They couldn't take the risk of crossing it, and so collectively decided to wait in the alley until night to carry on. The group passed some of the time foraging for food and water up and down the alleyway. There were plenty of bins and piles of rubbish, but food was scarce for them. All they managed to find were a few scraps of lettuce and some assorted berries for Dash, Bolt, Woody, and Jester to ration out. Plucky, Scarlet, and Perry were forced to go hungry for now, despite Perry offering to go flying out to find something further afield, claiming that there must be some birds around to hunt. Plucky and Scarlet insisted they were fine, and he should wait till night. Even for a bird, the city could be dangerous. For the rest of the evening, they peered from behind a pile of unused concrete blocks, stacked at the end of the alley, looking out onto the busy road. It was evening, but the sun was already out of view, hidden behind one of the many tall glass-clad skyscrapers, so the surrounding area was very dull, until the roadside lamps, street lamps, began turning on. Down the alleyway it remained dark and dull. The animals observed the humans' activity, lost in a state of curiosity as the humans went about their day. Humans must live such complicated lives, Plucky thought aloud, and then stayed quiet. What are those tiny glowing slabs they keep looking at in their weird front legs that don't touch the ground? Dash questioned out to anyone. I dunno, but most of them seem to be transfixed on them, Bolt replied, also having noticed his strange behavior. What, like mind control? Perry asked, bewildered. Could be. It's peculiar, though. Some of them seem to be holding it up to the side of their heads and talking to it. Bolt continued also in a bewildered tone. I think they might use it to communicate over great distances. One, our weird front legs, our hands and arms. And two, the tiny glowing slabs that we look at, that are transfixed at and communicate with, they're called phones. It's really interesting that 14 Sleepyhead 09 focuses on the animal's point of view. To us, well, to the animals, us humans seem like alien to them. They don't know about phones, and they get interested in them when we see them using them. Like, how, I'm currently walking Lola through the woods now as I'm recording it in the great outdoors. And, I don't know what she really thinks about, phones. I mean, of course I have a phone, so I can communicate with, my brother Jack and, many of my other friends whenever I like. And I also use it to record videos. Sometimes I wonder what I must look like on this phone to her. But enough about that. That just sounds too ridiculous, Plucky said skeptically. Well, we know already that humans are weird, Scarlet stated mockingly. Yeah, one minute they like animals, the next they don't, Dash started. Then there's some that keep animals as pets, like that dog there, Jester interrupted, adding on to Dash's statement, but almost unaware of what he had just said. Wait! Dog! Woody shouted frantically. Get down! Plucky ordered hastily, having noticed too, and the group then concealed themselves behind the concrete blocks. The dog was a greyhound, a breed of dog notoriously used for coursing hares, and sometimes foxes, which meant the group wanted to avoid its attention. Fortunately, it was on a lead, but it detected the scent of some unfamiliar animals. Animals which it could hunt. The dog approached and started barking aggressively down the alleyway where the group was hiding. Nervously, they waited till the human on the other end of the dog's lead started dragging it away impatiently, telling it off. Is he gone? Woody whispered anxiously. Yes, he's gone, Plucky said with relief, having poked his head from behind the concrete. Actually, I think it was she, Scarlet joked. Oh, don't give technicalities. She was still barking at us, Bolt stated forcefully. Clearly it's not just humans we need to be wary of, Dash stated almost emotionless. At that moment, the animals were completely unaware of the situation about to develop behind them down the alley. A man had placed himself strategically in an ambush position for a woman who had just turned down the alley, with intent to rob her. He was carrying a small pocket knife if his victim could prove uncooperative. The crime was brought to the animals' attention when they heard the scuffle behind them. Hand over the bag and the phone and you won't get hurt, the man threatened the woman, catching her completely off guard, brandishing the knife at her aggressively. What? Don't! Get away from me! She shouted frantically. There was a brief grapple between them, and the man overpowered the woman, but there was no need for the use of his knife. He had pushed her to the ground and proceeded to run away, clutching the bag and phone he had demanded off her. Hey! Help someone! That man just stole my phone and bag! The woman pleaded for help from anyone that could hear her. The group watched the crime take place with shock. It seemed that humans don't get along any better than any other animal. "We should do something," Plucky stated, almost feeling guilty that they had seen a crime and were just letting it happen. "Like what?" Bolt asked cynically. "We're just a bunch of animals. Let the humans sort out their own problems." Scarlet denounced Plucky's intentions. "She might be human, but she needs help," Plucky claimed. "Plucky, the oath doesn't extend to humans." Dash tried to convince him too. "Well, maybe it can," Plucky said, leading off. "Okay, Plucky, go ahead. Go and get the guy. Get the perp and take back the phone and bag." The brave fox ran down the alley to attack the criminal. Scarlet sighed and followed him. Despite her thinking it was a stupid idea, she wasn't going to let him do it alone. Perry also took to the air to help, while others watched but still followed. After catching up to the man, who hadn't ran very far, Plucky leapt up and bit hard into the human's leg. His sharp fangs went straight through the fabric the human was wearing and drew blood, and in complete shock, the human tripped and fell flat on his front. He turned over and looked to his disbelief. His own assailant was a fox. "You're gonna get wrecked, boyo!" "Ah! What the f—" the man shouted. "Thank you for censoring that for me, 14 Sleepyhead 09. "What the—" the mugged woman muttered, witnessing a group of wild animals come to her aid. Struggling on the ground, the human drew his small pocket knife in his left hand with intent to stab the fox that attacked him. He didn't hold it for long, though, when another fox appeared out of nowhere and bit his hand, almost ripping off his fingers. He dropped the knife and managed to struggle to his feet as the two foxes led off him. "To hell with this! I'm out of here!" he shouted, dropping the stolen items and staggered away hurriedly, defeated and ashamed. Satisfied that the man wasn't coming back, and that he would never try to steal again, Plucky carefully picked up the black rectangular slab called a phone with his mouth, and returned it to the woman, placing it warily in front, but safely away from her. Perry flew down and picked up the bag with his talons and too placed it in front of the woman. Thanks." The woman thanked the animals completely baffled, which the fox replied with a loud yip, and the falcon an inaudible shriek. She went to pick up her items, but once she was about to turn her attention back to the animal helpers, they had already disappeared down the alley with the rest of the group. "Well, that's certainly a story to tell," she continued, still completely baffled. I can't clap while holding this, so I can just do this. 3 cheers for the animal heroes! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Further down the alley, and happy that they were safe from any other danger, the group stopped to take a rest. Plucky and Scarlet in particular were panting after their intervention. The others were staring at them in some sort of confused amazement, and they were silent until Dash voiced what they were all thinking. "Guys, that was amazing!" Dash praised them. "Yeah, you should have seen yourselves!" Woody exclaimed. "You just took down that human!" Jester said resolutely. "He did have a knife, Jester," Scarlet enlightened, looking anxiously at Plucky. She knew that knife could have ended up plunged into him if she hadn't helped. "I don't believe I would have done it under any other circumstance," Plucky said emotionlessly, realizing Scarlet's worried face. "Nevertheless, it was great to watch," Bolt continued the praise. "If you guys could do that, what makes humans the dominant species in the world?" Perry asked naively. "Because they have knives and guns, and we don't," Scarlet stated. "Oh. Yeah, that probably has something to do with it," the Falcon replied. "We probably shouldn't have done anything to help," We don't know what consequences it could have, Plucky said glumly. Plucky, that's nonsense. You just stopped a crime, Dash consoled him. It was heroic what you did, Scarlet smiled. Hey, don't forget that Perry helped too. And you too, Scarlet. All three of you are heroes. You did it too, Plucky replied. Yes, but only with your inspiration. Something that I think we all need right now. This made Plucky smile, and the rest of them knew there was truth in Scarlet's words. Right now, they needed a strong, dependable, and inspirational leader. To which they all looked towards the Plucky Fox. His leadership and authority would definitely be needed over the coming weeks. A couple of days after entering the city, the group were foraging for food in another alley, further into the city. They separated to cover more ground as the best they could usually find were a few morsels of assorted foods. Perry often left the alley to look even further away. He was able to considering he could fly about, but rarely came back with anything. Food was scarce in the city, and what they did find they had to ration out. Sometimes they even had to go hungry. In this particular alley, though, there were more than just a few scraps of food. Dash was rummaging around the alley in an effortless search. She had been quite successful so far, finding a whole bunch of grapes, several leaves of lettuce, and other assorted fruits and vegetables, perfect for her, Bolt, Woody, and Jester. She even found a half-eaten chicken for Plucky and Scarlet to share, and Perry, if he fancied it too. Unknown to Dash at the time, she wasn't the only one looking for food. She was being stalked. Oh no. Oh no, that better not. Oh my. Hidden in the shadows, a stray cat was watching her eagerly, ready to make his move. Dash, though, was naturally wary. She stopped at times to look around her for any danger, and on one particular time she turned around quickly to see the unfamiliar feline figure in the darkness. On knowing he was spotted, the cat launched after the hare, causing Dash to scream loudly with distress and, as her namesake, dashed out of the way of the charging cat and down further into the alley, hopefully to run into Plucky or Scarlet to help her. She rushed down the alley, the cat quickly giving pursuit. As frantic as she was, Dash turned around a corner, but was immediately brought to a standstill. It was a dead end. She turned with fright to face the cat, who had fallen to a casual stride, knowing his prey had foolishly courted itself, chuckling menacingly. The hare backed away slowly from the cat. "I'm warning you!" Dash gulped, scared for her life. "I'm not alone!" "I don't see anyone around to help you," the cat emphasized nastily. "A city like this is no place for a lone rabbit." "I'm not a rabbit! I'm a hare!" Dash replied assertively. "You look like a rabbit to me, which means you look tasty." The cat smiled menacingly, licking his lips and creeping closer to the cowering hare. Dash slowly skulked further backwards into the corner of the alcove, as the cat gradually advanced on her. She couldn't take her eyes off her attacker. She was too terrified and had to be ready to run for her life, but she knew she wouldn't get very far around the stray cat. Fortunately, her scream had not gone unnoticed. "Where the heck have you been?" Dash called behind the cat. "Excuse me?" the cat said, confused. "She's talking to me," Plucky growled, having suddenly appeared to save his friend. He advanced slowly on the cat, his back arched in an aggressive stance, ears flat against his head, and baring his sharp fangs. "Leave, fox! This rabbit is my kill!" the cat replied aggressively, thinking this fox was just a competitor for a meal. "I don't think you understand," Plucky explained. That hare is my friend, and as long as there's breath in my body, you will not dare lay a claw on her! Ha! I've never heard of anything so absurd in my life, the cat mocked. Clearly. But I don't have to explain myself to the likes of you, Plucky replied coldly. And that is your entitlement, but... If you want to hurt her, Plucky interrupted, before continuing vigorously and fearlessly, you'll have to kill me first. The cat paused before speaking. I can do that, he stated, smiling malevolently. You might want to think again, Plucky returned a spiteful smile. Oh no, I don't think I need to. The feline then turned, ready to engage the fox. He hissed menacingly, revealing his own sharp fangs. Plucky stayed resolute in his fighting stance, snarling aggressively. Dash stayed deathly still in the corner, watching them cautiously, and now fearing for Plucky's safety more than her own. The cat prepared to pounce at Plucky, but hadn't anticipated anything else to happen. He was completely stunned when another fox than the one that stood before him had pounced on him full force, pushing him to his side. It was Scarlet. Scarlet, once again, you are the boss! Get that cat! She snarled violently at the cat as he picked himself off the ground. Infuriated, the cat prepared to take revenge, but backed off when he saw both foxes approaching him. And then Perry had swooped down too. The falcon perched atop the wall of the alcove, wings spread wide and shrieking with menacing hostility. Go, Perry! Perry the peregrine falcon! Clearly you're outnumbered, Plucky snarled. And outmatched, Scarlet added aggressively. The cat said nothing. He just snarled, huffed, and stormed off with shame. The group watched him travel down the alley until he was out of sight, but they remained vigilant, in the likely case he would emerge again. Thanks, guys, Dash spoke, her voice still filled with nerve. Don't mention it, Scarlet said, almost emotionlessly, still looking down the alley to where the cat had disappeared. We stick together, remember? Plucky assured, as if reminding Dash that as long as she was with them, she would be protected. Bolt, Woody, and Jester suddenly appeared. They had hidden themselves away until the threat of the cat had been dealt with. Bolt quickly ran over to Dash to make sure she was okay, and then nuzzled gently. This most recent of dangers had shook them all slightly, particularly the smaller animals, and they didn't fancy wanting to stay in the same alley as that cat. In case it did come back. They decided to cross another road, early in the morning when it was still dark, but not before they satisfied their hunger. Crossing the roads at night soon became routine. Under cover of darkness was when the animals were the safest from humans, and there had been no encounters with other animals, other than a few rats, none of which dared to pose any threat. Every night they continued, carefully and cautiously, through the endless urban maze. Woo! Similar title. So, to sum this chapter up, trains and robbers and cats, oh my! Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. And, it looks like our group is going to have a bit of a way to go before they can finally get back home. But never fear, we will stick with them on this journey until the very end. So, until next time, I'm the Masked Ranger saying, keep moving forward, remember the oath, and have a nice day. Later, all.